Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your boy MongoSlade. Today, we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling Rebellion from April the 25th, 2021. So this show, of course, is famous for this is the night Kenny Omega walked out with the Impact World Championship and the TNA World Championships. Kenny Omega walked in with one belt, walked out with three. So let's talk about, for starters, let's talk about Kenny Omega winning, then we'll talk about the match, and then we'll go through the rest of the card. So Kenny Omega winning the Impact World title, is it good or is it bad? Well, it depends. You have to ask yourself, what are they looking to get out of this, right? In my opinion, this is just my opinion, this cross-brand stuff has not done that much for Impact. AEW did not promote this show on Dynamite at all. Rich Swann did not make a single appearance on Dynamite at all. There was no threat at all of Rich Swann winning the AEW World title. So you have to ask the question, like, does this really matter? Impact as a brand is so low at this point that they have decided, okay, well, the only way we can really get some buzz is if we put our title on somebody who doesn't even really work here, right? So, I mean, not to knock it and not to knock them, I understand it's business. You have to do what you can, but you really not, how does it benefit you? I mean, even if it bumps the buy rate, even if it bumps TV ratings a little bit, what does it say about the rest of your roster? I mean, what does it say about all of the people on your roster that you fed to Rich Swann? What does it say to the rest of your roster that Rich Swann will now have to just go back to that locker room, having dropped the belt that all of them claim that they wanted to a guy who doesn't really work there and doesn't work with any of them and has not yet worked with any of them, and the brand that you're working with doesn't promote you. And look, it's not just Impact, because AEW also does not promote AAA. Kenny Omega has the AAA belt. Some people have even forgot that he even had it because he does not promote AAA. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it at all. I don't see how Kenny Omega being your world champion benefits your company. It really only benefits Kenny Omega. And I know some people have had this big fight online about it, about how is this going to benefit Impact. And some people have said, well, he's got to lose it. So obviously somebody's going to beat him for it. And it's like, maybe, not always the case. Not always the case that, somebody's going to beat you for that belt. Look, so we're going to put it like this. I don't see how Kenny Omega being the AAA mega champion has helped AAA. I don't see any way has it helped AAA. He doesn't perform on their shows. They don't promote the shows. Impact doesn't. I mean, even he does, he hasn't worked a AAA show, I don't think, since the pandemic started. I know Impact is different. They're a little bit closer. So it's, and it's a higher profile belt. Again, you can always say AAA, they don't care about titles, or they don't care about the big singles belts because it's a tag territory or whatever. But you have to understand you are increasing the value of somebody else's performer, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna make Kenny Omega the biggest, best wrestler in the world. It's like you don't have full control over Kenny Omega. So why do you care? Why not build up the guys that you have to make them the biggest, better stars in the business instead of sublimating your entire roster to Kenny Omega? I mean, it just really doesn't make any sense. But it's a decision that they chose to make. It's a decision that companies in Impact's position have always made. There have been many times, I know they've been touting this as being, oh, this doesn't happen. This never happens. It's like, well, it did happen. It happened in the 80s. It didn't happen in the 90s because nobody needed for it to happen. Nobody wanted to, I'm pretty sure, who was going to do it? Paul Heyman was the only option you had. Like, what you're going to have, and I guess Paul did have a situation where, Triple H beat Taz, right? Remember Triple H pinned Taz, and he didn't even pin Taz clean. And if you ask like the random person, if that was good for ECW, they'll claim and scream and holler about how it wasn't and how they buried the ECW title. But they'll be sitting around, talking about how great this is. It's like you're in a situation where this company is so low and so down in the dirt. Nobody gives a shit, right? Like you're giving this belt away, hoping somebody will care. But there was no way for anybody to do this before. To me, this is no different than if TNA and Ring of Honor had done it in like 2006 or something like that. It would have been like, so what? That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, so what? Kenny Omega is the Impact World Champion. So, I've seen people talk about, oh, look at the lineage. I'm like, yeah, look at the lineage after a certain point. You start getting hit with like Brian Cage and Sammy Callahan and Tessa Blanchard and Rich Swann. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you really want to put them on the same tier as Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe? And nah, it might be the same title, but it ain't the same. It ain't the same brand, dog. It's like, and I hate to say this about Nick Aldis because I really do like him, but it's like when you look at Nick Aldis as the NWA World Champion, and you try to compare him to Ric Flair, in like 1986 or something, or Dusty or something like that. It's like, nah, that's not nearly the same thing. That's the title of, and no disrespect to him, but Chris Candido. Nobody cares about Chris Candido. I know like hardcore wrestling fans do, but the average Joe does not know who the fuck Chris Candido is and doesn't care, right? Kahagas, Jax Dane, and Tim Storm. Like, nobody gives a shit about the NWA World Champion. Nobody cares. You have to actually be a wrestling fan to give a shit, right? Nobody cares. And that's kind of how it is with the Impact title now. It's like, this decision tells me nothing but the fact that they didn't have any other options. They looked up and down their roster and said, we can't build any new stars. Our only option is to put the belt on Kenny Omega. And hopefully we can build somebody that can beat him. And not going to beat him convincingly, I'm telling you. He's not going to do a clean job in the middle of the ring and hit by somebody's finish. It's probably going to be some Jay Lethal roll-up shit. And to be quite honest, that's probably what they deserve for being fucking idiots. But like I said, Impact doing this, it's not something that's out of the ordinary. Companies have done this stuff before. The AWA did it. WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, they did it. The idea of, we need to band together to combat the WWE or whatever the fuck. It's a tale as old as time, dog. Nobody cares. It's great for Kenny Omega. It's great for his legacy. But it does nothing for Rich Swann. It embarrasses him. But then again, Rich Swann was an embarrassment as the champion anyway. He never should have been the fucking champion. I mean, you say what you want about Rich Swann as a performer. Yeah, sure, he might be athletic and cool and all that type of stuff, but he's not main event worthy. And to be quite honest, no company with any type of strong following would have done it. Now who could possibly be stupid enough to do it next? It'll probably be the NWA. It's the only other option. I don't see Ring of Honor doing it. I think their entire locker room would be against it. Vince is going to laugh at it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Nobody would think about it. Will MLW do it? Maybe. Probably not. But I think if you pitched it to Colt Bauer, he'd probably think about it. But I think Ring of Honor, who takes their world championship very seriously, likely wouldn't. And WWE is not even considering it. So it's like you got over on smaller promotions that, need the buzz. And you brought in a big star. Kenny Omega hasn't done that much for Impact thus far. He's bumped a couple of buy rates, but, he hasn't. It's still the doldrums of wrestling. That's just my thing. We can sit here and talk all day about whether, it's historical. It's like, yeah, it's historical, all right. But if you have to already be a fan of Kenny Omega to think this shit matters. If you're not a fan of Kenny Omega already, you're like, so what? And I see a lot of people talk about the J Crown. It's like when you look at the J Crown, that actually mattered. But also when you look at the individual belts in the J Crown, none of them motherfucking belts mattered. Nobody cared about either one of them belts. One of them belts was a WWF belt, and they didn't even know that he had it. That shows you how much this shit mattered. You know, Vince had one of his belts wrapped up in the J Crown, and nobody even knew it. I will say this though, that I think if Impact wanted it to be a bigger deal, it should have had some type of crowd at the venue. The fact they did it in an empty arena, no crowd, they didn't try to. I mean, they hyped it up as much as they could, but again, AEW did not do any type of promotion. They may have tweeted about it, but that was it. AEW should have been talking about this as being a huge match all over their TV. Rich Swann should have been there all over the TV saying, look, I'm going to be the AEW World Title Champion, yada, yada, yada. The fact they didn't do any of that goes to show that this is what kind of relationship they're going to have. It is going to be a big spoon, little spoon situation, just like it is with AAA. And other promotions are going to look at that and be like, I don't see how that benefits us, you know? So, you know, Sammy Callahan or Moose or whatever beats Kenny Omega for the title. So what? It's another so what situation. You know, it's like Kenny Omega beat Rich Swann. So what? Oh, Ace Austin beats Kenny Omega for the Impact World title. So what? You know, like who cares about this fucking belt at this point? Brand has no steam to it, so nobody cares. All right, but so let's talk about the match. The match was sloppy. They botched 2 or 3 spots where they fell off the top rope and stuff like that. But this match was as it was title for title, there was a lot of nods to other world champions in this match. You got at the start of the match, you had Don Callis, who introduced Kenny Omega, similarly to Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. You had at one point in this match Rich Swann hulking up like Hulk Hogan. You had Rich Swann also using the J Driller. No, Kenny Omega used the J Driller, which is the finisher of Jay Briscoe, who was ROH World Champion. Similarly, you had Swann use the Lethal Injection, the Springboard Cutter, which is the finisher of Jay Lethal. He also used the Frog Splash, which is Eddie Guerrero's finish. So they went through and they kind of picked out some of the good parts of different world champions to make their match seem like a champion of champions type of match. But of course, it always boils down to Kenny Omega does 100 knee strikes. And that's pretty much it. 100 knee strikes and then 1 winged angel. That was pretty much it. Match wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was clunky. I saw a lot of wrestling journalists still trying to put it over, even though it wasn't the best match either one of the guys could have. And I liked that Tony Khan was there. I liked that they teased the 2 referees. I don't like that the 2 referees didn't really come into play. Brian Hebner, Tony Khan thought, oh yeah, Brian Hebner, he's going to try to get over. His last name is Hebner. He's going to try to put over. He's going to try to screw me. And so he had his own referee, Aubrey Edwards, in the ring. All Aubrey did was pull the damn chair out of Kenny Omega's hand. So she didn't really factor into the decision, which I would think, what I thought that was the point in bringing in the second referee, was that the second referee would come in to give an out to Rich Swann. That maybe it would be Aubrey who would make the 3 count. And it would be kind of, and you would think, okay, maybe Rich Swann could get a rematch or something like that. But this was pretty convincing. And it was the count was made by an Impact official, Brian Hebner. So Swann just, did the job, whatever. Mauro Ranallo did commentary, which was good. And I missed the old bastard doing NXT commentary because Matt Striker is not good. He might be better than Josh Matthews, who is the drizzling horse shit. But my God, Matt Striker is not good. He's not good. He sucks. All right, so that match was, it was an okay main event. The 7th match on the card was Deonna Purrazzo versus Tenille Dashwood for the Knockouts Championship. This match was, I thought, Deonna would work babyface going into this match. It ended up being Tenille working babyface, or at least as babyface as she can, because Deanna had Susan and Kimberly in the in her corner, and they were cheating, pulling the referee out of the ring and pulling Tennille out of the ring. And the match was good, but I was just kind of like, I don't know, man. It just felt like something was missing. It just felt like something was missing in this match, but it was good. Peraza wins with the Queen's Gambit, which is a Gotch style power driver. After the match, Deanna and her goons jumped Tennille and beat her up. I guess it's going to be a face turn for Tennille. And Taylor Wilde came up. She came out there. She debuted and beat up Susan and Kimberly. So we're going to bring Taylor Wilde back and throw her right into the thick of things, which is fine, I guess. They needed some fresh faces and Impact, and they finally have them. Speaking of which, they teased Samoa Joe, Mickie James, I believe also Kalisto in Slammiversary, the Slammiversary commercial. They showed Mickie James and they showed Samoa Joe. Mickie James got murdered in Impact, if I remember correctly. Didn't she get pushed in front of a train? How are they going to explain how she lived? Is she going to wake up out of a coma or something? Like she was in a 6-year coma or something? Like, how are you going to explain? But whatever. It ought to be good. It ought to be fun. Hopefully, when Slammiversary comes around, they have a crowd. I don't want Samoa Joe wrestling in front of no crowds. And who knows? They maybe pull some bullshit where Samoa Joe was the guy who beats Kenny Omega. I don't think that would be the right decision, though, because you would need some. I mean, he has the legitimacy, of course, but you need to be making new stars, not putting over older stars. All right, so I'm not going to go in order. Let's talk about the X Division title. So the first match on the show was Ace Austin versus TJP versus Josh Alexander for the X Division title. This match was fast-paced, as the X Division title matches usually are. The referee, Brian Hebner, he took Ace Austin's card. He likes to do his paper cut spot where he rakes the card across the fingers or whatever. And the referee took the card, despite the fact that this match was no disqualification. Whatever. So there was a lot of silliness in this match. For instance, there was a double submission spot where, TJP had Josh Alexander in a knee bar, and then Josh Alexander put an ankle lock on Ace Austin. So there was two people in submission hold at the same time. It was ridiculous. Another spot where, Josh Alexander had an ankle lock on Ace Austin, and then, TJP hit a Mamba Splash on Josh Alexander, and Batman Fulton pulled him out of the ring, and then Josh Alexander wins with a double underhook power driver, which is called the J Driller. That's the move. So Josh Alexander is the X Division champion, which is fine, I guess. I would have liked for him to, I would have liked for Ace Austin to win this match and then for Josh to beat him straight up for it. I feel like Ace Austin is probably the most underutilized guy in all of Impact. It seems like the moment he gets any type of momentum, they just cut his legs out from underneath him. He really should have been something bigger now. The guy's been on the roster for almost 2 years now. And you would think guys like him would be the people they would be looking at for the future, but apparently not. I guess apparently the future is AEW. So let's talk about this, because this is a big deal. Violent by Design versus James Storm, Chris Sabin, Willie Mack, and Eddie Edwards. So Violent by Design, actually, because Eric Young had a torn ACL, W. Morrissey, a.k.a. Big Cass from Enzo and Cass, actually made a debut for Impact. Now, this would have been so much bigger. It probably would have been higher on my list of things to talk about if it had not been spoiled hours before it happened. For some reason, the internet, if it's WWE or Impact, the internet loves to spoil it. If it's AEW, they keep it very close to the vest. They shut the fuck up about it. But because it was Impact, they had to go and spoil it and tell everybody that he was going to be on the show. So he replaced Eric Young on this team. He apparently is not a member of Violent by Design, but he was on this team. You could say he wasn't a member because he didn't come out to their theme song. He had his own theme song. And then after he beat Willie Mack with the Sidewinder, I believe it was Willie Mack that he beat. Yes, it was. Then The Violent by Design, they celebrated, and he was still in the ring. So maybe he's an unofficial member. He's an affiliate. Maybe they're going to have him join up soon. It ought to be an interesting thing because they're doing the baptism of change, and it's supposed to be like the sickness is like an addiction, being a wrestler, and I don't know about doing an addiction storyline with a guy who literally has an addiction, but that ought to be interesting. But this was a great pickup. I think it was a couple of weeks ago where I basically said that, if you're Impact, you want Enzo and Cass. So they need to bring in Enzo too. You need both of them, man, because, you need to inject some energy into this brand. And they're willing to spend the money. So I say go for it, man. This is Cass's second chance on the national stage. He's been working for the Good Brothers. Or Luke Gallows, who owns Big Lariato Pro Wrestling or something like that. He's been doing some work there. So they're taking a chance on him based off of, the Good Brothers or whatever. And that's really cool. I support the shit out of that. Go for it, man. I support it. So let's talk about the next match. Brian Myers defeats Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona's entrance had his entrance gear with spikes like Bowser from Super Mario Brothers. And it was interesting. Matt tried to shake his hand before the match. Brian refused. This match was there. It was just present. I didn't hate it though. Even though I hate Brian Myers, I didn't hate this match. The story made sense. The Rough Rider, or what they call it now, the radio silence, was done on the ramp by Cardona. He injured his leg in doing so. Then he tried a second one later where Myers countered it and pushed him over his head. Cardona lands on his legs. He buckles his knee. He goes down. They start talking about, Weidman. Chris Weidman, who broke his leg the previous night in UFC. I guess they really got the idea to do this. You had the referee throwing up the X, which means the match is over. Like, if they throw up the X, that means somebody's hurt. The match should be over. But here they threw up the X and it just continued. Cardona gets clotheslined after Myers helps him to his feet, and then he does a running clothesline for the pin. It was like, big whoop. Big whoop. All right. So the next match, Faye and Flava lose the Knockouts Tag Team Championships to Rachel Ellering and Jordan Grace. And Rachel Ellering is a heavyweight. She is, let's just say, healthy at any size, similar to Deonna Purrazzo, where they're just healthy at any size. Let's put it like that. Jazz accompanied Rachel and Jordan Grace to the ring. This match was okay. I just kind of thought that putting the belt on Rachel at her first night was kind of weird. I'm not really all that familiar with Rachel. I saw her in NXT, but I didn't see a lot of her anywhere else. She's not bad, but it was just kind of like, okay. Like, I don't see why Fire and Flava had to lose, but I guess it's a nice way to put a cap on Jordan Grace and Fire and Flava, the things that they've been doing over the last several months, because they have been entangled for several weeks. So, okay. I guess we just going to go ahead and get a belts to her. It's cool. So the next match, Sammy Callahan versus Trey Mcgill. Well, this match just featured Sammy Callahan doing all type of crazy shit to Trey Mcgill. And it was kind of fun. The body slam over the top rope was fun. The wrench in the mouth, which Trey sold brilliantly, was actually pretty good too. The power driver from the second rope onto the table by Sammy Callahan was pretty cool. That should have been the finish, if we're being honest. There was a power driver on the steps by Sammy Callahan. Then he buried him under the ring steps. And then Trey Mcgill slid under the ring. So, he took advantage of the fact that the steps are sort of hollow at the bottom. And then the finish came with Trey Mcgill doing sort of a running cutter off the ring apron through a table. And which is pretty much the biggest offensive move Trey Mcgill got all night. And he won. Really strange. But this match wasn't bad. This was the best story Impact had going in. And it did it deliver? Kind of. Not really. depending on what you was looking for. And the sixth match, the Impact Tag Team Championships, FinJuice defeated the Good Brothers via a small package. The only thing that was interesting about this match is this is what I realized I hated Matt Striker. And also, I noticed that FinJuice's theme song is a remix of The Hardest Button to Button by the White Stripes. I hate FinJuice, by the way. They're super fucking boring. They're super fucking boring. There was no Johnny Swinger on this show, which hurt me to my heart. And but this show is known for the debut of Big Cass. Rachel Ellering makes a big splash. Tyler Wilde comes back. And Kenny Omega wins all of the belts. So, I mean, it works out, I guess. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Send cash via the Cash App. Send cash via the subscribe star to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit subscriptions. Give me a like. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. I may do another video on Kenny Omega just to get out some more thoughts that I may have later or to do some responses. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.